Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Health E-commerce Friday Live podcast. I'm your host, Amy Kading, Technical Product Manager and Marketing Services Director at Get Healthy. And we're going live every Friday to discuss growing the business of health and wellness. Just a reminder, if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat throughout today's session and we'll do our best to get to them. So last week we talked about how our product offering is so much more than just supplements and the value of lifestyle when it comes to health changes. Today, we are going to talk about how to pandemic-proof your practice through your own online store. Returning again this week is special guest John Armstrong, founder and CEO at Get Healthy. Welcome back, John.
Thank you for having me, and excited for today's topic.
All right. So all of us are recovering from these unprecedented times, and we all know that Amazon grew a ton during the pandemic, but online practitioners didn't necessarily benefit as well. So John, when you think about pandemic proofing a practice, what does that mean to you exactly?
Well, it starts with the stimuli of the pandemic. Okay, what is that causing? And what it caused was a lot of us to hunker down at home, not go out as much, not make random trips to do things like secondary shopping to buy a bottle of supplements, as an example, maybe in a clinic. We had many clinics that closed down for a while, and many clinics start doing a lot more telehealth.
Right.
So I look at it in that context. Um, and so the the goal would be to meet that external artificial stimulus, would be to have that shopping experience that we've talked about. You as a medical professional, as a trusted advisor on health, have a unique opportunity to leverage that and um, have the mind share of your audience. And in times like this, and really going forward, I like to call it, in this post-COVID environment, where now we're all very attuned to buying more things online
Mhm.
and being comfortable with that. Even more so, they say it accelerated e-commerce probably a 7 to 10 years in advance in terms of the percentage of sales volume that's going through online. So for a practitioner, that's where it starts. It's like, leverage that trusted medical relationship you have, and then make it easy to have a, a positive customer shopping experience with you online.
Okay.
So that's the context, if you will. How do I create that shopping experience, so that when they do think of, hey, I'm going to go online and buy some health related products, I'm going to buy from my practitioner, not standard, go to Amazon,
Right.
which happened a lot. So, but with that, let's kind of, Amy, the way I thought that we would peel back the layers of the onion on this topic, would be to reference back to our 5 pillars of success in driving revenue growth in health and wellness. And that's our paper acronym. Yeah, thank you for um, posting that here. So, once again, just at a high level, and then I'll kind of go through these: having a practice branded store, defining your audience more broadly, offering a multi-product or multi-category product offering, so that you can get those additional sales that don't come from clinical work. The engagement with your audience on an ongoing basis, and then the relationship experience to help with people coming back. So let's go through those one by one.
Great.
First off, on a practice branded store, let's, in this context of pandemic proofing your practice, let's use as a contrast the other methods by which many practitioners do that today. They today, and this was my experience as a patient, that was a part of the genesis of why we built the platform.
Mhm.
Um, Today, a default behavior would be to send your buyers to not just one, but multiple third-party sites. Okay, and that could include a supplement distributor, a single place to go, where you send them to somebody like an Emerson, a Full Script, a Carewell, etc., where you have a little picture of yourself, but they're buying from that brand. I mean, that brand is Full
Yeah.
Script, or whatever distributor they might use. So that's a way that a lot of people use today. It's not a practice branded and owned store. It's a limited skin of that third party store. The credit card statement's going to say that third party.
Right. Mhm.
They're going to get on the email list of that third party, etc. So that's one source of third party sites. Others would be, just direct consumer sites, like Doctor Supplement Store, or Amazon, just because that's the default behavior that a lot of us do today when we go online to buy. And then the last grouping I would say that falls into this is all those third-party affiliates where you're sending your customers to them to buy from the product company, and in effect, as we've talked about in the past, giving your customer away.
Right.
So when you think about, um, in context of an event that causes people to go online and buy, then if you've been sending your clients to all these third parties, then they're going to go to those third parties. And with your own practice branded store as an extension of your business, of your extension of your practice, it's only natural that over time that the mindset changes where you've now created that shopping experience that's an extension of your brand, the extension of everything you do as a practitioner, and so people naturally come back.
Right.
We've used our avatar being mom a lot as the buyer, or mom is buying from you, let's say from clinical work, and over time, she sees that you have a great experience to buy healthy products, so she's going to come back. But if you've been sending mom to those third parties, let's say you send her to a random third party distributor, like a Carewell, or an Emerson, uh, you know, might she remember to go back there? Possibly. But if she remembers that you're her practitioner, she's going to go to your website, and is there a link there to your store that's easy for her to get access to? Unfortunately, when you're sending somebody to third party sites, it doesn't create stickiness
Right.
in your mind, and the mind share, it doesn't go from a transaction to a relationship. So more typically, and this is what happened in the pandemic, and still happens today, is it's like, hey, I need to get something to help my immune system. I'm going to go type immune system into the search bar at Amazon and buy what I can. Or maybe they're reading some of your content that they've seen on social, email, your blog, whatever it may be, and they read that, and now you've informed them, you've educated them, but you don't have that store that you own that's under your practice. And so what do? They go buy that from Amazon.
Yeah.
So that that really is the base builder of this being successful in this mode of getting people to come back and shop to you is to have your own practice branded, practice owned store.
And there's the whole scripting aspect that these third parties don't offer, right? So take advantage
Right.
of it.
Obviously, especially with people doing telehealth during the pandemic and even doing more telehealth, having the ability to have a scripting tool on the back end. And yes, you do have that with a couple of the distributors. Carewell does not have that because they're not providing you a technology um, for specifically scripting. So you want to have that scripting so that you can, send something and send a reminder out after a clinical, or if somebody calls you or texts you, you can be like, here, let me send that to you. So that's a component of that front end experience that our technology provides.
That makes sense. Yeah, and digital marketing, I always want to like shake people. You want your customers to know exactly where they are. Make sure it's, your brand on the page and not somebody else's, because that is what's going to stick with them, that logo that they see on the top left. So really important that that carries on from their marketing sites to their store sites. And that's how we position them, right? Is to just support that, to create that kind of seamless experience between the two.
So I guess moving on to the next part of our five success pillars is your audience. So in this time of being a functional medicine practitioner and having, let's say, a modest number of patients that see you on a periodic basis, pay you a fee out of pocket. When you think about pandemic proofing your practice, you really need a much more broad audience than just those that are seeing you from a clinical standpoint. So, we talked about not just a patient when they're in clinic, but using that mom avatar. Mom has a lot more purchases in her, so we want to um, have that practice branded store, that customer experience for mom just to come back to you and buy,
Right.
and she has purchases for the family, for her husband, for her kids, and then secondary products. She's looking out for the family, and so you want to meet her where she is and have those available under your practice branded store. And then more broadly, and this is really where we see a lot of sales that are not driven from clinical work, but more so driven through good content marketing, through increasing your email list, your followers on social, people reading your blog, and uh, you know given these times where people are less inclined to go and um, uh, not be, or how can I put this? People are not inclined to run into your clinic to buy a bottle, or if they don't know you as a secondary part of your audience, then you need to have a a broader audience that you've gathered over time through good content marketing, and that would include all your followers, etc. And then what we saw when we were all hunkered down was people were engaging a lot more online. So
Right.
having a good social media presence, understanding how to engage with your audience in different social channels. Um, you know, uh, TikTok is kind of a newer phenomenon, and we're seeing practitioners get very large followings in TikTok. But we also kind of find that TikTok isn't necessarily, you're looking at a short video, it's not compelling enough to drive somebody to an immediate purchase, in a lot of instances, but they're interested. So if you think of a sales funnel: awareness, interest, purchase consideration, purchase intent, and purchase are the steps, general steps. Then you're gathering a lot of interest there, but then how do you take that next step?
Right.
So there's a huge opportunity there when you are defining your audience, and then let's contrast that once again with your other solutions. So the purpose of a distributor really is to fulfill a patient order, and it's not to be a fluid, low friction channel to monetize your social audience. Um, let's go through an example. So if you're producing a piece of content and you send somebody, let's use an affiliate this time. Somebody reads that content and you put a link to your affiliate page on your store. So that's one click. They have to click that call to action button in your content. Then they go to your link page, have to find that specific link. Now you're losing people
Yeah.
with each click, and with each click and the time that they have to spend. Then you got to click that link, and then you got to go to the product company site. Then you got to shop. Then you got to, that person's, they're 2 clicks in. Now they're on some random third party, and they have to figure out what product. It's going to kill your engagement, your your time on site, etc. If that was all on your store, then you could actually drop them in that product detail page that you're talking about from your blog. You've just eliminated those clicks. You haven't given your customer away. So, and then with a third-party distributor, if somebody has to sign on, give an email address coming from a piece of content, they've just engaged with you, their friend liked your post, they saw it, they read it, they liked it, now they're one of your followers, they're engaging with your content, and then they have to go through a series of steps of giving my email address. My first thought anytime I give my email address to a new company is I'm going to get more spam in my email. It happens all the time. So that is a killer in terms of actually monetizing that traffic. So
okay, you defined the purpose of a distributor. For those that don't necessarily know, how would you define the purpose of these affiliate sites?
well, affiliate is used significantly because it's easy.
Yeah.
And affiliates goal in working with affiliate partners who have an audience. So in our industry, it's the practitioner is the key here. An affiliate's goal is to get your customer. In fact, any small spiff of a commission that they pay you, they book that on their books as a cost of customer acquisition, because their goal is to drive lifetime value to them, not you.
Yeah.
So their purpose is to get customers and then do the marketing, the engagement, all the things that we've laid out. They want to do that, but they want to do that with your customer. And they might pay you an initial commission, but then it's their customer from thereafter. So that's their purpose. Their purpose is to get customers from you and do their marketing, as opposed to doing that in context of you as their health professional.
Right. We talked about a few weeks ago, driving lifetime value on your store is how you're going to be successful. So that's kind of exactly what we don't want. We want to keep them in your practice branded environment.
Yeah, we're kind of back to that topic we had about making money while you sleep.
Mhm.
It's really, you're trying to make passive income.
Right.
And in this example today, it's a pandemic, or it's a external stimuli that has caused people to engage more online than in person. And that's not going away, and it's only going to increase as we all have busy lives and look for efficiencies and trust
Mhm.
buying things online. So a key pillar of that is to figure out how you can create an experience where they come back when you're not having to do a clinical with them.
Right. Okay, great. All right, so that's audience. Let's head into product offering.
Yeah. So, um, uh, product offering, we've talked about this before in terms of a multi-category product offering. So, in context of pandemic proofing, you just want to be able to have the things that people are going to want around their health. And if you have them and they're comfortable with you and they built a relationship over time, et cetera, then they're going to come back. And you're going to get sales that aren't driven by clinical work or even content marketing. They're just going to come back. And if we replay, back in the early days of the pandemic, if we would have in fact, the practitioners that had stores, they saw their sales increase for anything related to immune support, and they were able to do some content marketing to where they could take advantage of the opportunity and bring somebody back to their site. And maybe they're buying for immunity support, but immunity support's pretty broad. Things like an infrared sauna,
Right.
help detoxifying the body, using an infrared sauna. Well, if you had an infrared sauna, you probably would have sold some of those during the pandemic. That's a cross sell.
Hmm.
And look, tying that into our metrics from past discussions, that's going to increase the products per cart, the average order value, which are main components of driving better lifetime value. So now we're pandemic proofing our practice by having a multi-category store, creating that shopping experience, and people buying things that are some derivation out of your relationship, but they're not directly attributable to either clinical or content marketing work that you've done. That's making money while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
Um, and so you just got to have a well architected set of products that are relevant to things that you do and things that your audience would purchase. And that's what we've done is we've gathered not just supplements. It's not just sending somebody to some third-party supplement site. We have infrared saunas, air filters, water filters, skincare, oral care, sexual health, you name it. And a doctor is able to curate those, no purchasing of product, but put those on the store, and that's how you get cross sells and upsells, and provide more value into the life of your audience.
Yeah. And that's like living proof of the mom avatar during the pandemic. It was, I went through that firsthand of it being so overwhelming, jumping around, trying to find the things that I thought was best for everyone in my family. And then eventually going back and buying something else because I would get it and didn't totally trust it. And so having that like a one-stop shop of a trustworthy source from a practitioner that I think is like so beautiful from the end user perspective that a lot of people should take more advantage of it. I wish I would have known about that a couple years ago.
Exactly.
All
So
right.
that's audience. The next part of our paper acronym is engagement. So that is how you engage with your audience. And I think in thinking about this relative to sending somebody to third-party sites, um, one of the things that is so core to selling online is understanding what people are doing. Um, if you would have known during the pandemic that people were searching on general immune support, let's say, and they're just say immunity,
Mhm.
um, or if they heard, in the news, etc. I guess we didn't hear a lot in the news about alternative treatments, but if for some reason somebody had mentioned to them that glutathione is something um, they should look at as an immune part of your immune system that you want to be able to support, etc. Then on your side, if you looked at your search, what people were searching on, and you saw, wow, there's a lot of glutathione. Well, then you could look at your product offering and say, do I have multiple forms of glutathione? Do I have a liposomal? Um, do I have a nebulizer? So if I wanted them to do nebulized glutathione, then they could get the nebulizer from me. Um, but looking at those analytics, where are people going on your site? How much time are they spending? What are your best selling products? Um, you know, those site analytics and much more sophisticated ones like average order value that we've talked about, how many products per cart, um, uh, all those are pieces of data that you ought to be able to have. And if you're sending your buyers to multiple third party sites, the third parties have those for
Right.
their stores, but you don't have analytics. And that is something that is very valuable, especially if you work with a partner that is doing some marketing for you. Any good marketer, any good digital marketer today is going to ask about analytics,
Yeah.
site analytics, but also channel analytics. So if you're like, well, I did a sponsored post on Facebook, let's say, or in any of the social channels where you spend a little bit of money, you'd want to understand, what did I sell? So you need to have that connection between your content and where you're posting your content, and then what sells, And so if you knew that, gosh, I don't sell when somebody engages with me on TikTok, but I sure do when I get them on my email list and I'm able to market, let's say, in context of the pandemic, maybe you have an immune bundle that is merchandised on your store, so you can drop somebody directly onto the immune bundle without signing in, without giving their email, etc. And you do a TikTok post on immune support, because there's a stimulus in the marketplace about that, so it's a hot topic, etc. And you have a direct link, yes, from TikTok, but then you have ways to be able to capture their contact information, their IP information, put them into a retargeting campaign, and then retarget them with a call to action to go directly to your store, directly into that immune bundle. You can't do that on third party sites. You number one don't want to, but you really want to drive engagement on your store. And if you think about educating somebody through good content or through clinical work, and you're getting specific with things that you think they should buy, you've taken them down that sales funnel to where they're in purchase consideration.
Right.
So the last thing you want to do is send them to the front door. You want to send them all the way into that room that has the products that you've already educated them about, and say, well, here's those products. And your hope there, they just put those in the cart. And then they might start shopping, getting back to the shopping experience and the multi-category store. But you also need to be able to send them more specifically down the purchase path, if you will, based upon knowing where they came from and where they engaged with you. So in this instance, maybe it's a blog post about immune support. I mean, if you send them to the front door of a third party, they're like, well, who is this? And now I got to
Right.
get my email. So, that engagement is key when you have a topic that you're passionate about and want to get, and you're incorporating into your practice, or vice versa. In this instance, where we're talking about an external stimuli, you want to be able to meet the needs there. So you need to be able to have that engagement be specific to what's on your store. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So I totally agree that data piece is huge. And speaking to that, how do we protect our customers' data in our Get Healthy environment? I know that's a concern for some people.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Whenever we first started the company, we knew that, or we believe that the most important part of this entire industry is the doctor-patient relationship. So we wanted to feature that. That's why we built our platform as we did, to be able to build these practice-owned and branded stores. But we also wanted to protect the data of the patient and the doctor. So we actually proactively sign a business associates agreement, which is a HIPAA document, with all of our clients. And what that does is that ensures that we can handle HIPAA data, but that data is the doctors and the patients, obviously. So as an example, if we send an order to be fulfilled to a third party, they don't get email address, because the last thing you want is for your audience, those that you're attracting, both in clinical and non-clinical work, you don't want them to be spammed by other third parties. And every time you send somebody to a third party, then and they're getting their email address, and now those people are marketing to them and sending them all their materials, and maybe a whole bunch of products that you haven't blessed, that you don't know what they are, etc. And yes, they might buy them, and that's not a part of your environment anymore. So we proactively said, we're not trying to sell direct to consumer. You're not buying from us. We'll never be a direct to consumer company. Our goal is to enhance that doctor-patient relationship and keep the data that is generated out of that in the four walls, virtual walls of the practice, And then if any marketing comes, et cetera, that comes from the practitioner. This is their engagement, not our engagement with the practitioner. With the patient.
Okay, great. All right, and so before we run out of time, it always goes by so quick each Friday. Let's jump to our last one in the acronym. How does relationship experience play into pandemic proofing your practice?
Yeah, this one, obviously, if if you've created a good customer experience, good purchasing experience in the past, you already have that trusted medical advisor relationship, both with patients as well as that broader audience that's absorbing your content. And so you have that practice branded store, and then people come back. People directly load your store. They're like, "Oh, I know where to get it. I just go to my doctor's site, and then there's a link that says store, and I'm on their store." Or they can go directly to your store, because it's all cloud-based and available direct to consumer. So that relationship experience, as I've mentioned in the past, is the number 2 determinant variable of conversion rate in online commerce. Number 1 is relative price.
Yeah.
So, providing that experience is just an extension of your practice.
Sure.
And you have such an opportunity, given that you already have this trusted medical advisor relationship. The best way to enhance that is to give them a positive customer experience under your brand.
Awesome. There's definitely like a common theme throughout the PAPER acronym, which is keeping your patients, your end user, in your little ecosystem. Not just to like, I don't want to say like control them, but just to have control of their experience so they have a better experience, and using data to help them. I think it kind of goes all the way across from like product offering all the way down to customer service. Makes total sense why that's so much more beneficial.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, John, for being here again. It's always fun talking to you. Your knowledge is so great and the in depth on the company. If anybody has any questions today, please reach out to me directly at amy.kading@gethealthy.store, or you can find us directly on our website at gethealthy.store/contact. Make sure you follow and subscribe to our social channels. You can also now find us on podcast streaming services, Amazon, Shopify, wherever you like to listen. And then please join us next week. Tracy Straub will be back again to talk about how she uses courses to empower her clients. So thank you again for being here, John, and for everybody watching. Happy Friday, and we'll see you again next week. Bye.
Thank you, Amy. Have a good weekend.